what's really taking place on the earth is that a small cabal of people who don't have the general interests of the public at mind are really controlling this world, and through manipulation and techniques that basically subvert the human consciousness, they are getting us to hand over our sovereignty and our natural law rights. And in doing that, all the power and influence of this world is flowing right to them. And people don't understand how this works because they don't really know enough about themselves. Ultimately, all knowledge that is really a solution to this problem is self-knowledge. What their main aims are is to put the human population into a trance-like state that resembles sleep, that resembles hypnosis, and basically bring in a completely closed society or a police state. And they're very close to achieving this objective. I believe they've partially have achieved it and brought in a soft police state, which is what we really have now. They want this to be a globalized, centralized dictatorship. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what is not true, and the other is to refuse to accept what is true. And that's the decision that humanity basically faces. You usually fall into both of these, and people believe all kinds of nonsense and refuse to accept the truth. And that's why we're in the mess that we're in. A society whose citizens refuse to see and investigate the facts is a society that chooses and deserves the police state dictatorship it is going to get. Societies who want to stay ignorant and keep their eyes closed about what is going on in their society will eventually end up enslaved. And that's just how it works. People who want their ignorance deserve the dictatorship they're going to get. It is richly earned by them. They have chosen it of their own free will. They're people who think they're God. People who think that they control the actions of other people who aren't really breaking any natural law or violating the natural law rights of others. In fact, that's what the governments, police forces, and militaries of this world do every single day, is violate natural laws we'll get to. So true freedom is external anarchy, the falling away of the chains that have for so long bound this planet. True freedom, no external rulership of others. And that's what a police state is. People who think they have the right to do this stuff. And they don't, and they never will get that right. The problem is we've handed over our responsibility by even creating forces like these because we don't want to deal with our own house. We've not morally educated our young so they grow up to be criminals, and then we want controller to come in and clean up something that we should have handled to begin with. Education is really ultimately the key, and not trying to put together forces of controllers to save ourselves from our own ignorance. It'll never work like that because it's always based in fear. So when we hand over our natural law right to use force to another individual, group, or entity, we have abdicated our personal responsibility, and our personal responsibility is really the foundational basis for the discovery and the understanding of natural law. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither and will lose both. You give up your liberty because you want to be safe, you're going to lose both your liberty and your safety. And that's what's happening in our society. They must find it difficult, those who have taken authority as truth rather than truth as authority, because ultimately what this is all about is free will. And it's about free will whether to go along with the system or to refuse to cooperate with a system that's enslaving people. And ultimately it's about whether to follow along with natural law principles or whether to ignore them. And we're going to see what results when we do those things.
I don't really think enough people understand what's really going on as far as mind control is concerned. You don't hear them bringing this up in other events. You see a small core group of people that do understand it and grasp it, but it's a tiny amount in comparison to the numbers of people that do even belong to these activist groups. And while this is one of the best activist groups in the area, the majority of their membership do not really grasp the dynamic, again, about the human psyche, the occult. They don't think there's anything occult happening. They don't believe in the occult. They don't believe in mind control, period. A lot of them think it's all political, financial motivations that have largely to do with greed. And they don't understand that this is about the human soul, is what this is about, folks. This is about the human soul. Let's make no mistake about it. Let's put it right out on the table in very clear and easy to understand terms that mince no words. This is about the human soul. And the problem with most people is they don't believe in the human soul. They think that this is a biological machinery, is what we are. And they think the only thing that's motivating the factors that are going on that we don't like is greed. Well, it's about so much far beyond that, okay? That's one of the symptoms. That's not the root thing that's going on. That's not the root factor, okay? That's one of the vehicles for this control. Because ultimately what's about owning your soul. Now, there it is said right out in the open. And that takes place through the control of the human mind. That's how that takes place. And you know what? They largely got just about everybody on this world. Just about everyone. So, when we're talking about mind control, essentially what we mean is the manipulation of human perception. This is ancient, dark psychology. This is dark occultism. When you really boil it down, that's what the occult is. People don't really understand what the methodologies of the occult or mind control in particular are in a wider sense. That's why we do this show here. That's why we talk about these manipulation tactics. To know about how the mind can be manipulated and persuaded, and how the perceptions of it can be shaped and engineered, is critical. It is of paramount importance. It isn't negative. It's information. What we do with information imbues it with either positive energy or negative energy. But information in and of itself is never negative. If we see how something is being used, manipulated, perverted, and used against us as a weapon, that isn't necessarily negative. That can be empowering if we use that information to raise our awareness and protect ourselves against these methods. Occult simply means hidden knowledge. And if we're ignorant of some of this knowledge, we can be controlled through it. If we become aware of it, we begin to work with this information. We begin to assimilate it and understand it in depth. And in doing so, we begin to know ourselves better. We start to know the psyche better, our own psychological makeup and development. And as we move further into that path of initiation, if you will, it becomes much more difficult to pull the wool over one's eyes. It becomes much more difficult to manipulate someone that is in possession of that knowledge, because ultimately it's all knowledge of self. And that's why a dominator wants to hide that information. It wants to hide that knowledge, because if they have access to it and someone else doesn't, it's a piece of cake to manipulate their perceptions and what they think and what they feel. And that's what's going on this planet, folks. Whether you've recognized that or not by this time, doesn't matter. It is happening.
And that's where we're headed, folks, if we don't wake up soon. Because going against natural law is like standing on railroad tracks and expecting to stop a powerful locomotive with your arm out at arm's length. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. If we go against natural law, that's the kind of world of chaos that we're going to create. Very simply, you're the way out. It's up to you. It's all up to the individual. You need to understand the principles of natural law. You need to understand how natural law works. You need to understand the difference between right and wrong. You need to claim your sovereignty. You need to claim your own personal responsibility and stop making excuses. And that's when we will advance as a species. The answer is looking back from the mirror. You are the answer. Okay? You are the way out through your own edification, through your own education, true education. Okay? Paying attention, using your time and attention well spent. Okay, spend them well, because they are spiritual currencies. And that's the way out. That's the way toward evolutionary progress up the ladder of consciousness and breaking the chains of this world and stepping out into a new world of harmony, peace, and prosperity together, hand in hand. The chemical wedding, the left and right brain brought into harmony and unison with each other, and our thoughts, emotions, and actions brought into unison and non-duality.